Good evening. Tonight's shir in Makos on the bottom of Daf Yud Amid Beis by the two dots is dedicated Le'ila Nishmas, my uncle Avrohom Yitzchok ben Yaakov Zev al Shalom. So we continue. The Gemara explains the next part of our Mishnah. U'mechuvanois lehem drachim. Direct roads were laid out. Tanya, it was taught in a brisa. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Emer. Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Yaakov, says, what does he say? He says, Miklot hayakasav al parshas drachim. On the GPS, in the ancient times, on the signs, it would say Miklot, refuge, was inscribed on the signs posted on the crossroads. Kedei sheyakir haritzeach, in order that the murderer should recognize the way to the Arei Miklot, v'yifne l'sham, and turn towards there. Omer of Kahana said, Mikra, what does the pasuk mean when it says, Tochen l'cha haderech? You shall prepare the way for yourself, which is in Devarim Yotez Gimel. That means, Aseh l'cha hachana l'derech, make for yourself a preparation for the way, meaning, make preparations for yourself so that a fleeing killer, somebody trying to run away from the Goy Ladam, will be able to find his way with minimal effort. Zuk Rashi on the left side, the top of Yud Amid Beis, Miklot hayakasav al parshas drachim, b'chol makom shehayu shnei drachim, any place where there are two drachim, two roads, mifutzalim, I guess, spread out, or there was a crossroad. Echad paina le'ir miklot, one turning towards the Arei Miklot. Haya eitz takua, there was a piece of wood that was stuck in, but also derech in that road. Ukasav by miklot, and the word miklot was written over there. Okay, so in other words, anytime you had a place at a crossroad where it can go either way, there was a sign that was wedged in that would say on it Arei Miklot, so that people would know where to turn and, God forbid, not be caught by the Goy Dam who would have permission to kill him. So it was the practice of the Rabbanim to introduce their lectures on Psukim with a drasha giving some sort of homiletical insight, some sort of drasha insight into what they were going to talk about. So Rav Chama Bar Chanina, Pasach la Pischa lahai parshasa mehacha. Rav Chama Bar Chanina opened his lecture on this particular portion dealing with murderers from here. Is this whole inyan that we're talking about now before about Arei Miklot and murderers. It says in the Torah in Tehillim Chav Hei Ches, Toy v'yasher Hashem al ken yaira chaton baderech. Good and upright is Hashem, therefore He guides sinners on the way. Im l'chatoim yaira, if He guides sinners, kal v'chaim l'tzadikim, He surely guides the righteous. And it's so important, such a lesson for us, that we should always understand that Hashem is always looking out for our best interest. I always say as a joke, people are worried about parnas, and I'm really speaking to myself. The same God that feeds ISIS, the same God that feeds the skinheads, the same God that feeds all the terrorists and all the horrible people in the world, He could feed you too. You're not a terrorist, you're not a mobster, you're not a killer. So if Hashem feeds the killers and the mobsters and all the evil people in the world, He'll feed you too. If Hashem is looking out for His sinners, then of course He's looking out for the people that are righteous. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Pasach la Pischa la Ahai Parsha D'Macha. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish opened up his lecture on this portion of Arei Miklot murderers that we just spoke about. The Asher lo tzada ve'elakim ina liyadai. But if he did not lie in wait, but Hashem caused it to come to his hand, which can be found in Shemais, Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Yud Gimel, Exodus 21:13. It says, Kasher Yorim Mishal Hakadmaini Mershayim Yetzi Rasha. As it says in the proverb of ancient ones, from the wicked comes forth wickedness. Okay, this is found in Shmuel Aleph, Samuel 1, Chav Dalid Yud Gimel, 24:13. Bameh HaKasim Medaber, what is this pasuk talking about? B'shnei b'nei Adam, two people. Shahargu es nefesh, they killed someone. Each one killed a person. Echad harag b'shoigig, v'echad harag b'mezid. One person killed accidentally, but was slightly negligent. V'echad harag b'mezid, and one killed intentionally. Lozeh ein Eden, this one who killed by accident didn't have Adam. Lozeh ein Eden, this one they killed on purpose didn't have Adam either. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu mazmin al pundak echad. Hashem, blessed be He, summons them to the same pundak, the same hotel. Zeh shaharag b'mezid yoshev tachas asulam. This one who killed b'mezid and didn't have Adam to warn him and is really chayav misa, but since no one saw him, he is the one that's going to be his death will be orchestrated as such. He will find himself under the ladder. And then and this person that killed accidentally and didn't have Adam to point him into Gullus, Yored B'Sol, coming down on the ladder, V'noifel Olav V'hargu. And this one that killed B'Shoigeg, this one that killed inadvertently, will fall off the ladder going down and squash the one who killed the Mazid. Zeshar B'Mazid Nerag. The result is of these chain of events is that the one who had killed intentionally is killed, as he deserved to die because he killed someone else b'mezid. Zeshar B'Shoigeg, and this one that killed B'Shoigeg and didn't have witnesses that will point him to Ari Miklat Gaila, he now gets his full kapara and he goes into Gullus, since he has now killed inadvertently in view of witnesses, and these witnesses would then send him to Gullus. The Gemarah goes on to a new drasha here, and what do we see? Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Huna. Rabba bar Rav Huna said in the name of Rav Huna. The Amrile Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Lezer. And some say it was Rav Huna said in the name of Rav Lezer. Min ha-Torah, min ha-Neviim, min ha-Ksuvim. From the Torah, from the Neviim, and from the Ksuvim, the holy writings, we can learn that B'derech shadam reitz elelech, in the path that a man wishes to go, bo malichan oisai. In that way they lead him. Min ha-Torah, how do I know this from the Torah? That is the way that you want to go and head in life. Hashem will help you get there. Min ha-Torah diksiv, state in pasuk, lo yisei imahem, because it says by Bilam, you shall not go with them. This is in Bamidbar, Chav Beis, pasuk Yud Beis. Hashem forbade Bilam to go with the princes of Moab who wanted to hire him to curse Klal Yisrael. Uksiv, but it's written further, kum lech itam, arise and go with them. Since Bilam showed that he wished to go with them to curse Klal Yisrael, Hashem allowed him to do so. And of course, that ultimately led to his demise. Umin Neviim, and from the prophets, from the Neviim, it says the following pasuk: "T'ksiv ani Hashem Elokecha melamdecha lahayil." I am Hashem, your God, who teaches you for your benefit. This is in Yeshayahu. This is in Yeshayahu Mem Ches pasuk Yud Zayin. I teach you what is good for you, but madrichacha b'derech telech. Who leads you by the way you will go? Meaning, I lead you in the path that you choose to take. Minaksuvim, from the holy writings, is learned out from the following pasuk. The ksiv, because it says in the pasuk, im la leitzim, who yalitz. If one goes to the people that are leitzim, who make fun, who are clowns or scoffers, he will become a scoffer. He'll become a letz, meaning he will become a person that scoffs. But if he goes to the humble, he will evoke grace. This is a Mishlei Gimel Lamed Dalet, meaning his deeds will eventually evoke grace in people's eyes. You want to be a bad person, you want to be a letz, you want to be one that makes fun, Hashem will help you make fun. If you want to be a tzaddik, you want to be a good person, Hashem will help you be a good person. Let's see Rashi. Second Rashi, 3 lines in the top on the left side, Pasach leit Pischa. Kishahaya writes a lidrash, when this rabbi would want to give a drasha, a homily, the Parshas Reitzchem, with the Parsha of Reitzchem killers, Hoya Maschel Khan. He would start from here, that from these various psukim that we had just mentioned. Velakim Analiyada, says Rashi, Zehu Shamar Kosev. This is what the pasuk is talking about. Kasher Yomer Mashal Kadmoini, that which the ancient proverb said, Mersham Yetzeresha, from evil, evil will come out. Mashal Kadmoini, He Torah, which is the Torah. Shehu Mashal, whom shall Kadosh Baruch Hu, who is from God. Shehu Kadmoini Shalom, who's the ancient one of the world, who's always around. V'hi Amra, the Torah says, Mersham Yetzirasha, from evil, evil will come out. V'hechen Amra v'Elokim Analiyadei. What does it say? Hashem Analiyadei. What does it say that in the Torah? Where does it say that particular wording in the Torah? Says, V'hech Kadosh Baruch Hu Mamtzi Milchel Adam Lachtei. How does Hashem cause him to sin? We know that people have free will. So how does Hashem Analiyadei? How does it say that? What does it say that? It says, again, how does Hashem bring about a michshol, a stumbling block for a person, lachta, to make him sin? It's only going to come through the hands of 2 people that are evil, the killer and the one who was killed. And that's cases of the hayarig, the one who did the killing, he was chayav galus. There was no aid in this, and therefore, since there were no aidim, he did not go to galus. And the person who was killed, he was chayav misa. They ain't aid bedover. So a person that kills b'mezid, person that kills purposely, cold-blooded murderer, he's really chayiv misa. He should get sayif. He should get beheaded. But since there are no aidim to bring him to justice, he thinks he's getting away. No, that's not the case. Lefikach Kadosh Baruch Hu, therefore Kadosh Baruch Hu mazna l'punda basically orchestrates events that both come to the inn. Echad, as the gemarah continues, one is going under the ladder, the one that killed on purpose, and the one that killed accidentally, who's chayiv galus, but there were no aidim, falls down the ladder, kills the one who was chayiv misa, and everything is set straight. But Makos medaber velakim on what is that pasuk talking about? Neifel alav v'harga v'yesh edim, and therefore when the person falls off the ladder, there's edim, and then v'yigal karcha, and then he's forced to go into galus. Says next Rashi, b'derech telach, b'derech asher tavchi leilach, in the path that you choose, you will go. Says the pasuk in Mishnah, im l'leitzim ba adam l'schaber. If you want to become buddy, you want to associate with the leitzim, hu yalitz. Hashem will not prevent you from doing it. You want to join a group of terrible people? You want to become a part of the in crowd? You think you're going to be cool and you're going to hang out with all the shticky people? No, it's going to end up hurting you. Okay, next. This is the next gemarah. Okay, we go on. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna said, if a murderer was exiled to Ari Miklad, Umatza Gailadam Hargu, and the Gailadam, otherwise known as the Redeemer of the Blood, found him on his way there and killed him. Potter, he's exempt from punishment. Kasavar, because Rav Huna holds that the pasuk that says V'loi ein mishpat maves, but there is no death penalty upon him. What does that mean? The pasuk says in the Varim Yud Tes Vav, it says Pen Yud of Gailadam Acher Etzeach Ki Yecham Levava V'Hasigu Ki Yerba Haderech V'Hikahu Nafesh V'Loi Ein Mishpat Maves Ki Loi Sainahu Loi Mitmal Shil Shoim. Lest the Redeemer of the Blood chase after the murderer, for his heart will become enraged, will become hot with anger, and he will overtake him. For the distance will be great, and he will strike him dead. But there is no death penalty upon him, for he did not hate him yesterday and before yesterday. But Gailadam hu d'ksiv, the pasuk is talking about the Gailadam, and it teaches that if he kills the killer even before he had a chance to reach Ari Miklad, he is absolved. He's not chayiv misa. Why? Because he has the right to kill him. So in other words, Rav Huna is not discussing an exile who is killed as he steps out of Ari Miklad. We're not talking about a situation where somebody ran to Ari Miklad, was then saved within the boundaries of Ari Miklad, and then he, in his negligence, in his silliness, he walks out of Ari Miklad and then gets shot by the Gailadam. We're not talking about a case like that. Rather, Rav Huna is giving us the narrative of the pasuk, which is teaching us that the Gailadam is exempt even if he kills him as he's attempting to reach a Ari Miklad. The Rambam, interestingly, says in Hilchos Tzayach 5:9, meaning Perek Hey, Halacha Tes and Yud, applies this ruling both to the killer who is fleeing to a city of refuge to wait his trial, as well as the killer sentenced to exile who's being returned to the city of refuge to begin serving his term of exile. Let's do Rashi. Rashi says, "Umatza Gailadam," and the Gailadam finds him b'derech balichas, on his way there. But Gailadam akasim medaber. So the Gemara says it's talking about the Gailadam. V'haki kamar. This is what it means. Pen yud of Gailadam achri Ritzeh. Perhaps lest the Gailadam runs after the Ritzeach v'yisigu, and he will overtake him. He called and nefesh will yasrim and bezdin. We're not going to warn him. We're not going to punish him. We're not going to give him any consequences in bezdin. Ki loy ein mishpat maves. We're not going to give him over to bezdin. We're not going to have him harmed by bezdin because he has no mishpat maves. The Sefer Mikra and the end of the pasuk Emer ki loy sainahu. Musav al Rosha is going back at the beginning. Pen yird of Gailadam. I tell you to make a way for this Ritzeach to run away. Why am I telling you to give him a place to run to? Because he, the killer, the one that killed Alexander, was not a Saina. V'loi hargu medas. He didn't kill him medas. In other words, the end of the pasuk of Kiloi Saina is not talking about the Gailadam. That part is going in the beginning of the pasuk, which is talking about the Ritzeach who's running to Ari Miklad. You're supposed to be hachin like derech. Why? Because he didn't kill with malice. He killed accidentally. So because he killed accidentally, that's the reason why we give him a place to run. Remember, we learned before that if somebody hated someone, our miklat will not help, and he's basically going to be given over to the goy adam, or the goy adam if he tries to, if he's running away from Bezdin, the goy adam catches him, he could freely kill him. That's what the pasuk is talking about. Meisvei, so they challenge this rendition of the pasuk from a brisa. V'loy mishpat mavis, but there is no death penalty upon him. The pasuk refers to the murderer, and it teaches that he is not subject to death at the hands of the goyim hadam while he is attempting to reach the city of refuge. You say that it refers to the ritzach, or perhaps ela b'goyim hadam. Maybe it's talking about the goyim hadam, telling us what? As Rav Huna interpret the pasuk, that he's not chayav for the killing of the inadvertent killer. So who is the pasuk talking about? Is it talking about the goy adam, or is it talking about the one that murdered accidentally? When the pasuk says, when the pasuk says he did not hate him yesterday and before yesterday, which is found in Devarim Yud Tes Vav, Havi Aimer, you are basically compelled to say, you have to say, can't be talking about the goy adam, he didn't hate him. Who didn't he hate? But the goy adam didn't hate someone? Of course not. He didn't hate this guy yesterday, the day before. Why didn't he hate him? He didn't hate him because he didn't kill the day before. He killed. It's talking about the killer, the accidental killer. It was not a saina. Since the pasuk including the phrase he did not hate him could refer only to the murderer, it makes sense to explain the unidentified subject of the previous phrase as referring to the same person. It would make sense. The murderer, not the redeemer of the blood. Therefore, we find the brisa that contradicts Rav Huna, who said that it's talking about the goy adam, and really we say no, the pasuk is the brisa saying the pasuk is talking about the retzeach. Says Rashi, Harei retzeach amar she'ein lo mishpat maves. The retzeach has no mishpat maves. L'haya tzarech lichtav b'shviloi v'loy mishpat maves, and it didn't have to say mishpat maves for him. Okay, so it says again, Harei Ritzech Amar. At the end of the pasuk it says, Ki loy soina hu loy mitmo l'shilshon. It already explains in the pasuk that the Ritzech didn't have a mishpat maves for killing by accident, because he killed by accident. And it didn't have to say v'loy mishpat maves. Therefore, you must say it's coming to teach you that it's going on the goy adam. And I guess that's the answer. That's the answer. Who the Amar ki haitana, the Tanya, he Rav Huna follows this Tanya v'loy mishpat maves b'goy adam because medaber. It's not talking about what we said before. It's not talking about the Ritzech. It's talking about the goy adam. Ata aymer b'goy adam because medaber. Do you say it's going according to the goy? It's talking about the goy adam. Or en el Ritzech. Maybe it's talking about the Ritzech. Keshu aymer ki loy soina hu mitmol shilshim harei Ritzech amar. The murder is already mentioned. There's the final phrase of the pasuk explains why the murderer should not be killed. There's therefore no reason for the previous phrase to also state that there is no death penalty for this murderer. Hamani b'kayim lo mishpat maves. Since you want to only have two parts of the psukim talking about the same thing, so how do I figure out, how do I oisrech, and how do I translate v'lo mishpat maves b'goy adam? Because otherwise you're going to have the two parts of the pasuk talking about the same subject, which is the Ritzayach, and it wouldn't make sense. Again, the Gemara answered that there's a second brisa that supports Rav Huna. So you have one brisa that doesn't support Rav Huna, the second brisa learns fakir from the first brisa. Nachamo, who the Omer ki haitana. Rav Huna follows this Tana. The Tanya is taught in another brisa, v'loy in mishpat maves. B'goy ladam akosim medaber. The pasuk refers to the goy ladam. Ata Omer b'goy ladam akosim medaber. Maybe is it talking about the goy ladam, or maybe oyena el ritzech. Maybe that part of the pasuk is talking about the ritzech. When the pasuk says, he did not hate him yesterday or before yesterday. That particular part of the pasuk, meaning the final phrase of the pasuk, explains why the murderer should not be killed, because there's no reason for the previous phrase to also state that there is no death penalty. So therefore, if Elohim Mishpat Mavis is not talking about the Ritzeach, who is it talking about? So the process of illumination, the Goyal Adam, it must be talking about the Goyal Adam. And the pasuk is telling us that Rav Huna said that the Goyal Adam is not punished if he kills the murderer. The Gemara now seeks to contradict Rav Huna from a Mishnah. So we struck out from a brisa, right? We had one brisa that was fakir for Rav Huna, one brisa that's for Rav Huna. Now we're going to try to upschlag to contradict Rav Huna from a Mishnah. A Mishnah is more authoritative than a brisa. So now we're going to try to up the ante over here and ask a question, a stira from a Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Moisrin Loi. The Gemara says, Moisrin Loi Shnei Talmid. The Mishnah says, Moisrin Loi Shnei Talmid Chachamim. They would provide for him an escort of 2 Talmid Chachamim, 2 Torah scholars. Shema Yargenu Baderech. Why? Because they're afraid that the Goyal Dam will kill him on the way. V'yidabre Elov, and they should speak to him. My lab, does it not mean the Masrbe, that they warn him, the Goyal Dam, the Ikato, that if you take revenge and kill this killer, Bar Katalahu, why are they saying Talmid Chachamim to talk down the Goyal Dam? The Goyal Dam is hot and heavy, angry at this person. He wants to take revenge. So what do we say? It says the Mishnah, we send 2 Talmid Chachamim to basically talk him down off the ledge and say, hey man, if you kill him, we're giving you Asra, you're going to be killed. Bar Katalahu, he'll be killed. Therefore, we see from the Mishnah that the Goyal Adam is not permitted to kill the killer, so much so that we're afraid that he may kill him anyway. We have to send 2 Talmid Chachamim to talk him down. And this is all talking about while the Ritzeach is on his way to the Arei Miklat, he has the 2 Talmid Chachamim to prevent him from being killed, to warn the Goyal Adam that he is going to be Chayav Misa if he does kill. So Gemara responds, no, lo. The Mishnah does not mean that they warn him, but rather they say to him, Kedatanya, like we learned in the Brisa, they say things to him that are suited for him. What do they say? They say to him, Al Tanag Minhag Shev Chedam. They don't warn him that you're Chayav Misa. They try to talk him out of it. They use psychological manipulation and tell him, do not behave towards him in the manner of a murderer. Don't become a murderer by killing this person who killed B'Shagid. Why? Because the deed came to his hand by accident, inadvertently. Meir says, no, it's not that the rabbis speak for him, he speaks himself. These are the words of the Ritzeach, as it's found in the Devarim Yutes Dalid. The rabbi said to him, the intervention of others is more effective than the pleading of the man involved. So the Chachamim said, you need to have as many people pleading for this guy himself, and the rabbis pleading for him, because the more the merrier. Okay, Gemara examines the Brisa. Amar Mar said, the Tana of the Brisa said, they say to the Goyal Adam to talk him down, the deed came to his hand inadvertently, and as the guy killed by accident, Pshita. Of course he did it by accident. Why? The Imeza, because he did it intentionally, Bar Galasu. Would he be Chayav Galus? We know that Chayav Galus, the person only gets Galus as a kapara, and you only get a kapara if you did it accidentally. So what are they saying to him? It's obvious, right? The very fact that they are taking him to a Arei Miklat makes it obvious that the killing was inadvertent. Otherwise, why would the rabbis be bothering taking somebody who's a cold-hearted killer to Arei Miklat to save him from whom? Save him from what? They're therefore not telling the Goyal Adam anything he doesn't already know. So what's the chiddush over here? Gemara responds yes, there is a case when even an intentional murderer goes to Arei Miklat. So chiddush. Well, Tanya, and so it was taught in the Brisa. And this Brisa, with Yosef's opinion in the Brisa, is identical with his opinion in the Mishnah. Nevertheless, the Gemara prefers to cite the Brisa despite the Mishnah's superior authority. This is because the Mishnah could be interpreted to mean that it was the practice of intentional murderers to flee to a city of refuge, but not that it was required to do so. In the Brisa, however, it is clear that Yosef holds that they were required to go to a city of refuge, even if they committed intentionally, since the Brisa cites a verse to support this ruling. And once these people, whether they killed the Mezid or killed the Shagi and went into Arei Miklat, eventually Bezdin will call them back, adjudicate the case, and either be Mechayev and Misa or not. But in any case, yes, there is a case when an intentional murderer goes to the city of exile, to the Arei Miklat, Batanya, so it was taught in the Brisa. Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda says, Batchila at first, as soon as the killing occurs, Echad Shagig, Echad Mezid, both people who were b'shagig and both people who killed the Mezid, Makdim and Arei Miklat, they right away run to the Arei Miklat with Bezdin, Shalchin, and Mavian Oisam Masham, and the court sends shlichim, messengers, and bring them back from there to court. Mishan es chayav misa hargu. If they find out that he killed the Mezid, proper aid and masra, etc., he's put to death. Shnemar, like it says in the pasuk, l'shalchu ziknei ira l'akloitzam misham v'nas noisiv yad goyel adam v'meis, and the elders of the city shall send and take him from there and deliver him into the goyel adam, to the hands of the redeemer of the blood, and he shall die. This is the pasuk in Devarim Yutes Yud Beis. However, mishaloi nischayev, whoever is found not to be chayev to the death penalty, patruhu, they exonerate him. Shenema says vetzilo eida esertzech mi'al goyel dam. As it says in the pasuk that the eida, the tribunal, shall rescue the murderer from the hand of the redeemer of the blood, meaning the court shall save the killer from the avenging relative by declaring him innocent. Mishin is chayiv galus. Therefore, whoever is found to be chayiv galus, machzirin oisil mukamo, they return him to his place of refuge. Like it says, ve'shiva oisa ha'eda el ir miklata asher nasa. And the tribunal, meaning the bezdin, shall return him to the city of refuge to which he had fled, meaning he fled there. They took him out to judge him. Then they found out that he wasn't chayiv misa, it was chayiv galus. They returned him there. Rabbi Meir says, Mi atzman hengoyim. The intentional murderers flee into exile spontaneously. Kisfur and hein echad shegi ve'echad mezid. Kultos, because they're so panic-stricken, they figure, I'm going to run to the Aron Miklat and it'll help me whether or not I was b'shoigeg or mezid, ve'hein ein yoidin, and they don't know, sheb'shoigeg kultos b'mezid and kultos, that for inadvertent killers they afford refuge, but for intentional murders, they do not afford refuge. So they go on their own without even thinking. The Gemara introduces a new ruling. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Ir Sheruga, so the city of refuge with a majority of murderers, Eino Kultos, does not afford any refuge. That is, the majority of the Ir Miklat's population are exiled killers, people that did a b'shagi. It no longer protects them against the Goyel Adam. Why? Because it says in the pasuk, Shnemar v'diber be'oznei ziknei ha'ir hahi es dvarav. It says the killer who has fled to the city of refuge shall speak his matters to the ears of the elders of that city. This is brought down in Yeshua, in Yeshua, Perichav Pasuk Dalrich, which means, it implies, V'loi shehushru devrein ledvarav, that their matters are not the same as his matters, meaning that there are not more murderers like him. In other words, they're speaking, they as a minority are speaking to the Ziknei Ha'ir. Not that the Ziknei Ha'ir are the minority, no, the killers are the minority, and the Ziknei Ha'ir are the majority. Amar Rabbi Lezer says further, Ir she'ein bazekanim, a city that has no elders, no bezdin, ein nekaletis, cannot be considered an Ari Miklat. The bein on Ziknei Ha'ir, because the Torah says we need Ziknei Ha'ir, elders of the city. V'leka, and there are none. Gemara cites a dispute regarding this last ruling. Itmar, it was said, Ir she'ein bazekanim, a city that has no zekanim, Rabbi Ami Rabbi Asi, is the subject of a machloekes between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. Chad Omer Koltas. One says Ir she'ein bazekanim is kailet, works properly and is able to afford refuge. V'chad Omer ein koletes, and one says that it does not afford refuge. Laman Damer ein koletes, according to the one who says it does not afford any protection. Be'inon zikna ir v'leka, is because the pasuk says we must have elders of the city and they are lacking. Laman Damer koletes, according to the one who says that it does afford refuge, mitzvah b'alma. It's not a chiyuv, it's a mitzvah. It's preferable, and pasuk is teaching us that it is proper, that the city has proper elders, but it affords refuge even without them. Similarly, in another case, where the Torah speaks of elders, there's the same Amoraic dispute, whether these functions can be performed in the absence of elders. The Ir Shem Bazikain and Rabbi Ami Rebasi, also Machlekes Chadam and Nasa ben Sarimar. One says that the wayward son that ate a liter of basar and stole wine and is in danger of becoming a highwayman, says a city without refuge, without zakanim, could create a situation of ben sarimar. One says no, you can't have a ben sarimar, cannot have an edict, a psak of ben sarimar without having this bezdin. Laman damer ein nasim ben sarimar, according to one who says he does not become ben sarimar, because why be in ziknei ir? The Torah says you need to have elders of the city, like it says in the Devarim Chof Aleph, Yotes v'leka, and they're lacking and they're not there. Laman damer nasim ben sarimar, the one that says you could become a ben sarimar even without the ziknei ir, mitzvah alma. It's because it's merely a mitzvah that he be tried before the elders of the city, but it's not essential for this judgment. There's a big shverkeit over here because we're talking about misa, right? Putting somebody to death. According to the Mandam, it says you don't need mitzvah, you don't need the ziknei ir. It's merely a mitzvah. How do you try somebody? How do you put somebody to death? Unless you want to say that is the chiddush goof of the chiddush of Ben Sarimar, that according to that Manda Amar, you don't need bezdin, and you could actually put somebody to death without bezdin. Very, very shocking. Very, very interesting. Says the next shtickle of Gemara. The Ir she'en by zikanim, in a city that has no elders. Rav Ami and Ravasi is also the subject of this controversy with Rav Ami and Ravasi. Chad Amar Mavia Egla Rufa. What's Egla Rufa? Egla Rufa is a situation where somebody is found killed between two cities, and they have this whole elaborate procedure where the sages of the nearest town come down and they promise that it didn't come out of their hands, that this guy died, that they gave him proper food, and they gave him proper levaya, they gave him proper escort, and they have to take an egla, this calf, and decapitate it in this field that is barren, right? So Chad Amar Mavia Egla Rufa. One says that it brings a calf to be decapitated, meaning it's a subject to the requirement of Egla Rufa. And the other one says it does not, a city that lacks rabbis does not bring Egla Rufa. According to the one who says that it does not bring an Egla Rufa, because the pasuk says he must have the elders of the city, the leka, and they're not there. The one who says you bring an Egla Rufa even though there's no bezdin, why do you bring it? Because the mitzvah alma, the Torah is not giving you a chiyuv, it's telling you l'chatchila you should have it, but b'diavad, if you don't have it, it also works. Let's do Rashi. Harei Ritzech Amar she'ein loy mishpat. Okay, we did it already. Harba shlichas. I said the varim she'ein nasim ayidei adam nasim muskablim ayidei harba shluchim. Things that don't happen through people happen through many, many different shluchim. As things get done when they're supposed to get done. Pshita. Kivan the Hugoyla, since he goes into Gol, is Vada b'shagig harag. He's Vada killing b'shagig. The Ibn Mezid harag b'chi goyel haya. If he killed a Mezid, would he go b'goyla? So the question is, why would you say that you're telling him that he did it b'shagig? You're telling him it's actually b'shagig. Of course he did it b'shagig. When we said Harba Shlichas Eisen, Rashi is basically saying that there are many things that the person himself doesn't do. In other words, the Ritzach himself doesn't plead his own case. Why? Because it's better when more people are pleading for you. So according to Mount David, it said the rabbis talk, and not, I made a mistake before. I said he talks along with the other rabbis. We're saying no, that the other rabbis talk instead of him, because the more the merrier. First of all, the rabbis, and I think it's more meaningful the rabbis speak than this person who's a murderer. And therefore, it'll soften the heart of the Ritzach. So I stand corrected. Okay. Betchila, says Rashi, Tchilas mashpatam shel it's from the beginning of the judgment of the right. It's going to be Ikru Zev, the Ikaru and its root and its main thing. Zehu Echad is the following. Echad Shaygig, Echad Mezid. Whether you were Shaygig, whether you did it inadvertently, you were Mezid, and you run to Aramikal. The Aleph Taima Mikra, we learned this reasoning from a pasuk. Chiyeh Ish Saina. It says when a person hates someone and he has this ambush on him and he gets up and he kills him. Mashma imhargo b'chavana means that even if he killed him b'chavana with intent, Yonis, he still runs. Ksiv Basrein says afterwards, afterwards there's a shalcha ziknei ira. You send these zikanim to go fetch him to see if he's chayv misa or not. So first you see he killed him, he did it with intent. Then it says he runs to Ar Mikla, and then it says right afterwards, but the rabbis come get him, and if he's Chaim Misa, he's put to death. Just interesting ha'ara I have over there is that it's interesting. It's a huge chiddush, I think, that usually when somebody kills someone, right? Let's say Reuven kills Shimon with Hasra, right? Bezdin gives him a saif. It seems that Bezdin kills him directly, but over here, when the guy ran to Arei Miklat, it's Rashi's telling you basically that they give him over to the Goyel Adam. The Goyel Adam kills him. Bezdin doesn't kill him. So I was like wondering why there's a difference. Could be, again, this is just me thinking out loud, it could be since he pretended or he went into Arei Miklat under the guise of someone that is Chayiv Golus, right? So a person that leaves Arei Miklat, even a person who kills Meshagig, what happens if somebody leaves Arei Miklat? Anybody agrees that the Goyel Adam can kill him. So what happens? The guy leaves Arei Miklat. Why does he leave Arei Miklat? Because Bezdin has to try him. Bezdin tries him as someone who is not afforded the right to go to Arei Miklat, and therefore he's exposed. So Bezdin says, kill him, take care of him. He's a little bit different than somebody kills B'mezid with Hasra and didn't run to Gullus. Now he ran to Gullus, he's thrown out of the Arei Miklat, now he's given over to the Goyel Adam. Just me thinking aloud, I could be totally wrong, but that's just me thinking. Rabbi Yomer, Lo Yamar Kasav Sheigla, Pasuk doesn't say you should go to Golos. Elahu Toya. He made a mistake. L'Goyla. And he went on his own. L'Necha Kosa. Torah is telling you, Shiachu Mishom Yarguhu. He went on purpose because he didn't know the halacha. But what does the Torah tell you? That no, they take him out. Take him out and they kill him. The Dabe Beoznei Zikna Irahi. Mikra b'Sefer Yeshua. That pasuk is in Sefer Yeshua, as I mentioned before. Mitzvah ba'alma. What does Rashi say? Mitzvah sheyi zekanim, that they should be zekanim there. Umiha ki ein ba zekanim. However, there's no zekanim. Nami called it still works as ard mikla. Ben Sayer Meir Siv. It says in Dvarim Chafal v'haitzi oisel zikna ira. The pasuk says you have to go zikna ira. So mandam, and it says it doesn't become that you don't have Ben Sayer without zikna ira because the pashas of the krag, the pashas the pasuk says. You need to have zikna ira, and you don't have. The other one, the says no, it's a mitzvah. Okay, we're going to stop over here. Have a good night and have a good Shabbos. Again, the shir is dedicated Le'ila Nishmas Avrohom Yitzchok ben Yaakov Zev Alvin Lu. His neshama should have an aliyah, and he should be a gift beta for us and for Klal Yisrael. Thank you for listening and thank you for coming.